1 year after the temporal operations, Admiral Peter Kane stood on the observation deck of Kepler's Rest, the same station where everything had begun. But this time, he wasn't alone. Beside him stood Prime Minister Veltar, who now remembered only a lifetime of peaceful cooperation between their species. "Admiral Kane, I must thank Earth again for accepting our trade alliance," Veltar said, his voice warm and friendly. "The Zephyrian Coalition has never had such productive partners." Kane nodded politely, though his eyes remained cold. In this timeline, Veltar was a peaceful merchant leader, but Kane remembered the other timeline, the one where this same alien had ordered Ambassador Hayes murdered on live broadcast to the galaxy. "Prime Minister, our species have much to offer each other," Kane replied carefully. What Veltar didn't know was that Kane's ship, the UES Dominion, carried enough firepower to destroy the entire station and everyone on it. The Ghost Fleet still existed, still hidden in the dark spaces between stars. Humanity had learned never to trust entirely, even when enemies became friends. On Earth, President Lisa Morgan walked through the memorial garden dedicated to Ambassador Daniel Hayes. In this timeline, Hayes was still alive, working as Earth's chief diplomat with the Coalition. But the memorial existed in a classified area, known only to a few dozen people who remembered the original timeline. The plaque read, "To the man who died for peace, so that peace could live." Only those who had worked on the temporal operations understood what it meant. Dr. Lucy Chen joined the president in the garden, carrying a data pad with the latest reports. "Madam President, the monitoring stations are all operational. We now have early warning systems in every major star system, within 50 light-years of Earth." Lisa looked at the peaceful garden, thinking about the secret that lay beneath their feet. 3 miles down, the Kronos facility still operated, ready to change history again if necessary. "Lucy, what about our other projects?" "The dimensional research is proceeding ahead of schedule. Dr. Foster believes we can have functioning pocket universe technology within 5 years, portable spaces where we can hide entire fleets." Lisa smiled, but it wasn't entirely happy. "Good. We can never let anyone catch us unprepared again." Commander Beth Taylor sat in the captain's chair of the Ghost Runner, her ship drifting silently through the Vega system. To any observer, the system looked empty. But Beth knew that 7 other Ghost Fleet vessels were hidden nearby, always. Watching, always ready, her communications officer, Lieutenant Sam Brooks, looked up from his station. "Commander, we're receiving the scheduled check-in from Shadow Base. All Ghost ships report normal status." "Good, Sam. Any Coalition activity in our sector?" "Negative, Commander. Just merchant vessels and research ships. All exactly what they claim to be." Beth nodded, but her finger stayed close to the weapons control. The Coalition might be peaceful now, but humanity had learned that peace could disappear in an instant. The Ghost Fleet would always be ready. The research world of New Geneva, Dr. Alan Foster worked in a laboratory that officially didn't exist. His latest project involved something he called reality anchors, devices that could prevent temporal changes from affecting specific areas of space. His assistant, Dr. Kevin White, held up a small device that hummed with strange energy. "Alan, the prototype is working perfectly. If anyone tries to change our timeline again, these anchors will protect Earth and our core colonies." Alan took the device carefully. "Kevin, what we've built here goes beyond anything any species has ever achieved. We can change the past, create pocket dimensions, and now anchor reality itself. Are we still human? Maybe we're something better, Alan. Something the galaxy needs. In the Outer Rim territories, Colonel Mike O'Brien continued his work, but now his missions were different. Instead of sabotage and destruction, his teams watched and gathered information. Every species in the galaxy was now under quiet human observation. His second-in-command, Major Grace Adams, reported from the planet Xerion Prime. Tiger Base, this is Observation Post 7. The Xerion Republic is developing new shield technology. Should we intervene? Negative, Grace. Monitor and report only. Unless they become a threat to human colonies, we observe. Mike looked at the star maps showing the positions of his observation teams. Humanity now had eyes and ears throughout the galaxy, watching for any sign that another species might develop aggressive tendencies. On the Coalition capital world, Trade Minister Quillat was meeting with Earth's new ambassador, a woman named Rachel Green. She was discussing mining rights in the Centauri system, completely unaware that human ships had been secretly mining those asteroids for months. Ambassador Green, the Coalition is very interested in joint mining operations, Quillat said, his multiple eyes focusing on the contract. We can offer excellent terms. Rachel smiled pleasantly. Minister, Earth appreciates the offer. We'll need to survey the area first, of course. What Quillat didn't know was that the survey had been completed a year ago. The mining equipment was already in place, hidden by the same cloaking technology that concealed the Ghost Fleet. Earth would get the resources they needed whether the Coalition agreed or not. Captain Jake Sullivan now commanded the UES Liberty, a ship that looked like a peaceful exploration vessel but carried weapons that could destroy planets. His crew included many of the same people who had watched Ambassador Hayes die in the original timeline. Emma Rodriguez, now his first officer, stood beside him on the bridge as they approached a new star system. Captain, long-range sensors show several uninhabited worlds, perfect for colonization. Jake nodded. Begin the survey, Emma, and deploy the standard monitoring package. The monitoring package included sensors, communication relays, and automated defense systems. Every world humanity surveyed became part of their growing network of hidden military installations. Ryan Clark, now the ship's chief communications officer, looked up from his station. Captain, I'm detecting radio signals from the third planet. Looks like we found another intelligent species. Jake felt a familiar chill. What kind of signals, Ryan? Early radio broadcasts, sir. They're about where Earth was 300 years ago. Begin standard first contact protocols and send a message to Admiral Kane. He'll want to know about this. What Ryan didn't mention was that the message to Kane included detailed information about the new species' technology, population, and military capabilities. Humanity would know everything about these aliens long before making official contact. President Morgan stood in the Situation Room beneath the White House, watching reports from across the galaxy. On the main screen, dozens of dots showed human, operations that officially didn't exist. Admiral Kane's image appeared on the communication screen. Madam President, our expansion continues ahead of schedule. We now have monitoring stations in 47 star systems. 3 new species have been cataloged and assessed. Any threats, Admiral? None at present, ma'am. 2 of the species are pre-spaceflight civilizations. The third is peaceful and technologically inferior. We'll make contact when they're ready. Lisa looked at the display showing humanity's true reach across the galaxy. Admiral, Sometimes I wonder if we've become the very thing we fought against. Kane's expression was stone-cold serious. Madam President, the Coalition taught us a valuable lesson. In this galaxy, there are only two kinds of species, the strong and the extinct. We chose to be strong. But Admiral, are we still the good guys? Kane was quiet for a long moment. Ma'am, we protect human lives and human freedom. We don't conquer for conquest's sake, and we don't destroy species just because we can. But we will never again allow anyone to threaten humanity's survival. Lisa nodded slowly. God help anyone who tries. In the memorial garden, a gentle breeze moved through the trees planted in honor of Ambassador Hayes. The plaque caught the sunlight, its words a reminder of the price of peace and the cost of war. Above, Earth, the massive orbital defense platforms continued their silent watch, ready to protect humanity from any threat. Hidden throughout the galaxy, the Ghost Fleet moved like shadows, ensuring that no enemy could surprise humanity again. In research facilities that officially didn't exist, human scientists worked on technologies that would have seemed like magic to their ancestors. Weapons that could destroy stars, devices that could hide entire worlds, machines that could rewrite reality itself. Humanity had wanted peace among the stars. Instead, they had become the stars' greatest predators. Ambassador Hayes had died trying to build bridges between species. His death had built something far more powerful, an empire that ruled from the shadows, protecting human interests with an iron fist hidden in a velvet glove. The galaxy was at peace, but it was humanity's peace, enforced by humanity's rules, protected by humanity's hidden strength. And in the darkness between stars, the Ghost Fleet waited, ready to remind anyone who forgot that Earth remembers, Earth does not forgive, and Earth never gives a second warning. The stars looked peaceful through the viewport of the UES Liberty as Captain Jake Sullivan watched his ship drift slowly toward Kepler's rest. The massive space station hung in the void like a giant metal flower, its arms stretching out in all directions. Somewhere inside that station, Ambassador Daniel Hayes was walking into what might be the most important meeting in human history. Jake pressed his hand against the cool metal of the ship's hull and felt the gentle vibration of the engines. 3 months ago, the Zephyrian Coalition had sent Earth a message that changed everything. They wanted to talk. After months of their ships moving closer to human space, after weeks of tension and fear, they finally wanted to negotiate. Emma Rodriguez stood at the tactical station, her fingers dancing over the control panels. She had been Jake's tactical officer for 5 years, and he had never seen her look so worried. Her dark eyes kept checking the weapons systems even though they were supposed to be on peaceful duty. "Captain, I still don't like this," Emma said quietly. "We're too far away. If something goes wrong, we can't help the ambassador in time." Jake nodded but kept his voice calm. "Those were our orders, Emma. The Coalition insisted that all human warships stay at least 50,000 kilometers away from the station. They said it was to show good faith." Ryan Clark looked up from his communications console. The young man had joined the crew only 6 months ago, fresh from the academy. "Sir, I'm still getting normal chatter from the station. Everything seems quiet." On Earth, President Lisa Morgan sat in her office, staring at the live feed from Kepler's rest. The camera showed Ambassador Hayes walking down a long corridor toward the meeting room. Daniel had been Earth's top diplomat for 20 years. If anyone could make peace with the Zephyrians, it was him. The president's aide, a nervous young man named Tony Wright, stood beside her desk. Madam President, the Joint Chiefs are standing. Bye. Admiral Kane says his ships can be ready to move in 6 hours if the talks go badly. Lisa shook her head. No, Tony. This has to work. We can't fight the entire coalition. They have 12 species, hundreds of worlds, thousands of ships. Earth has been in space for less than a century. We need this peace. Back on Kepler's rest, Ambassador Hayes straightened his blue diplomatic uniform and checked his notes one last time. The meeting room was huge, with a long table that could seat 50 beings. Representatives from all 12 coalition species were already there, waiting for him. At the head of the table sat Prime Minister Veltar of the Zephyrians. He was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large black eyes that seemed to look right through Hayes. The Zephyrians were the most powerful species in the coalition, and everyone knew that Veltar made all the real decisions. Hayes took his seat and smiled. Thank you all for agreeing to meet. Earth is honored to have this chance to talk with the coalition. We hope we can find a way to share this galaxy in peace. Veltar's translator device made a soft beeping sound before speaking in perfect English. Human Hayes, your species has been expanding very quickly. In just 50 Earth years, you have claimed 30 star systems. This concerns us. I understand your concern, Hayes replied, but Earth has always followed galactic law. We only settle in empty systems. We have never taken land from other species. A coalition representative with 4 arms and green scales leaned forward. You breed too fast, human. 1 world becomes 10 worlds, becomes 50 worlds. Where does it end? Hayes opened his folder and pulled out a data pad. That's exactly why we wanted to meet. Earth is prepared to offer a formal treaty. We will limit our expansion to no more than 2 new systems per year. We will share our medical and agricultural technology with all coalition members. We will open trade routes that will benefit everyone. The room was quiet for a long moment. Hayes felt hopeful. These were generous terms, more generous than Earth could really afford. But peace was worth any price. Veltar stood up slowly, his black eyes fixed on Hayes. You misunderstand, human. We did not call this meeting to negotiate with you. We called this meeting to deliver a message. Hayes felt his heart sink. What message? The coalition has decided that humans are too dangerous to exist in this galaxy. You adapt too quickly. You learn too fast. You will become a threat to all peaceful species if you are allowed to continue. Hayes stood up quickly, his chair sliding back. Prime Minister, you can't be serious. Earth has never threatened anyone. We are explorers, not conquerors. That is exactly what makes you dangerous, said another coalition member, this one looking like a giant insect. You explore, you adapt, you grow. One day you will decide you want what we have. Hayes felt sweat on his forehead. Please, let's talk about this. There has to be a solution. Earth wants peace. Veltar smiled, but it was not a kind smile. There is a solution, human Hayes. It is very simple. Hayes saw the Zephyrian guards moving toward him before Veltar finished speaking. He tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. The room was sealed. On the Liberty, Ryan's console started flashing red. Captain, I'm picking up some kind of signal from the station. It looks like they're broadcasting something. Put it on screen, Jake ordered. The main view screen flickered to life, showing the meeting room on Kepler's rest. Jake watched in horror as Zephyrian guards grabbed Ambassador Hayes. Veltar was speaking to the camera now, his voice coming through clear and cold. Beings of the galaxy, witness the fate of those who threaten the peace. The human species has proven itself too dangerous to exist. We begin the cleansing of human space in one solar cycle. This is not war. This is pest control. Thaw. Screen went black. Emma was already at her station, weapon systems coming online. Captain, request permission to engage. Jake stared at the dark screen, his hands shaking with rage. Belay that order. We can't fight the whole coalition. Sir, they just murdered our ambassador on live broadcast to the galaxy. I know what... They did, Emma, but there are 12 of them, and one of us. On Earth, President Morgan sat in stunned silence. Around her, the room erupted in angry voices as her advisors shouted over each other. Through the noise, she heard Admiral Kane's voice on the communication system. Madam President, the Joint Chiefs are recommending immediate mobilization. We need to respond. Lisa stood up slowly, her face pale, but her voice steady. Admiral, prepare the fleet, all of it. Ma'am, with respect, we can't win a direct war against the coalition. President Morgan looked out the window at the blue sky of Earth, thinking of all the human worlds out there in the dark. All the families who were about to learn that the galaxy was not the peaceful place they had hoped it would be. Maybe not, Admiral, but they just made a very big mistake. They think we're weak because we wanted peace. They're about to learn that. Humans are only peaceful when we choose to be. The age of human diplomacy was over. Commander Zethkar watched his tactical display with growing irritation. The tiny human ship was still positioned between his fleet and their homeworld. He had expected it to run away by now. Every other species fled when they saw Kelvaran warships approaching. Sub-Commander, scan that human vessel again, Zethkar ordered. I want to know exactly what we are dealing with. Yes, sir. Scanning now. Rextall worked at his controls for several minutes. Sir, the readings are strange. The ship appears to be much more advanced than our initial reports suggested. Explain. Their armor is some kind of composite material I have never seen before. Their power core is putting out energy levels that should be impossible for a ship that size. And, sir, they have weapon ports all along their hull, but they are hidden under retractable panels. Zethkar frowned. Are you telling me this ship is actually a serious threat? I am not sure, sir. It is definitely more dangerous than it looks. But it is still just one ship against our entire fleet. On the bridge of the Defiant, Captain Morrison was making final preparations for battle. His crew worked with the smooth, efficiency of people who had trained together for years. Rick, status report on weapon systems, Morrison said. All systems green, sir. Kinetic cannons are loaded and ready. Plasma torpedoes are armed. Point defense systems are online. We are as ready as we will ever be. Morrison nodded. The Defiant carried the most advanced weapons humanity had ever built. They had been designed specifically for fighting larger, more powerful enemies. Amy, any response from Earth Defense Command? Yes, sir. Admiral Johnson confirms Protocol 7 is in effect. All defense platforms are online. The Spartan program has been activated. Additional ships are being prepared, but they will not reach us for several hours. Understood. Dr. Morgan, how are the crew doing? Dr. Lisa Morgan checked her medical scanners. What she saw surprised her. Sir, this is unusual. Everyone's stress levels are elevated as expected. But their adrenaline and endorphin levels are also rising rapidly. Normally, people become more cautious when facing danger. Your crew seems to be getting more aggressive. Morrison smiled grimly. That sounds about right. We have been looking forward to testing our ship against a real enemy. Sir, incoming transmission from the Kelvaran commander, Amy reported. Put him on screen. Zethkar appeared again, looking angrier than before. Human Captain, You have had enough time to consider your situation. Move your pathetic ship aside so we can begin the conquest of your world." "I am afraid I cannot do that, Commander," Morrison replied calmly. "This is as far as you go. You cannot be serious. One ship against 13? Even for a stupid species, this is beyond foolish." "Perhaps. But we have a saying on Earth. The only way to find out how tough you really are is to pick a fight with someone bigger than you." Zethkar stared at the human for a long moment. In all his years of conquest, no one had ever spoken to him this way. "Very well. You wish to die? I will grant that wish. All ships, target the human vessel and fire at will." The transmission ended. Morrison turned to his crew. "All right, everyone. This is what we trained for. Let us show these aliens what humans can do." The first sign that this battle would be different came when the Kelvarans opened fire. Massive energy beams and plasma torpedoes streaked toward the Defiant. The human ship should have been vaporized instantly. Instead, something impossible happened. The Defiant moved. It did not just change course. It performed maneuvers that seemed to violate the laws of physics. The ship twisted and spun through space like a dancer, avoiding weapons fire that should have been impossible to dodge. Morrison's crew worked their controls with inhuman speed and precision, turning their vessel into something that moved more, like a living creature than a machine. "Evasive maneuvers successful," Rick reported. "All enemy fire missed." "Excellent. Begin attack run Alpha 7. What happened next made Zethkar question everything he thought he knew about space combat. The human ship suddenly accelerated toward his fleet at a speed that should have crushed its crew from the gravitational forces. Instead of attacking the largest ships, it went straight for one of the heavy cruisers on the edge of the formation. Hidden weapon ports along the Defiant's hull snapped open. Kinetic cannons fired solid projectiles at a significant fraction of light speed. Plasma torpedoes launched in carefully calculated patterns. Energy beams lanced out with surgical precision. The Kelvaran cruiser Bone Render shuddered under the unexpected assault. Its shields flared and failed. Armor plating that had withstood the weapons of a dozen different species was punched through, like paper. Secondary explosions rippled along its hull. "Impossible," Zethkar whispered. "How can one small ship do such damage?" But the humans were not finished. As the Bone Render began to list helplessly, small craft launched from the Defiance. Fighter bays. These were not the clumsy shuttles that most species used. They were sleek, deadly fighters piloted by humans who seemed to actively enjoy flying into the middle of enemy fire. Lieutenant Tony Blake led the first squadron of fighters toward the damaged Kelvaran ship. He had been a test pilot before joining the space program, and he flew his fighter like it was an extension of his own body. Behind him, 11 other pilots followed in perfect formation. "Defiant Control, this is Lightning Squadron," Blake reported over the radio. "Beginning attack run on Target 1. The human fighters dove toward the massive alien cruiser like a flock of predatory birds. They moved in ways that should have been impossible, threading between defensive fire and striking at weak points with devastating accuracy. On the Kelvaran ship, Sub-Commander Thexmol watched in horror as the tiny human fighters tore through his vessel's defenses. "Sir, we are taking heavy damage. These humans fight like they are insane." "All ships concentrate fire on the human fighters," Zethkar ordered. "Destroy them before they can do more damage." But the human pilots seemed to anticipate every move. They split up and reformed in new patterns, always staying one step ahead of the enemy weapons. Worse, they seemed to be enjoying themselves. Their radio chatter was full of jokes and challenges as they danced through the deadly space battle. "Hey, Blake, "Watch me thread the needle through those two cruisers," called out Lieutenant Sarah Wells. "Show off," Blake replied with a laugh. "Try to save some targets for the rest of us." Dr. Morgan monitored the pilot's vital signs from the Defiance bridge. What she saw defied medical understanding. Instead of the terror and stress she expected, the human pilots showed all the signs of people having the time of their lives. Their heart rates were elevated, but their brain chemistry suggested they were actually enjoying the deadly combat. "Sir, this is fascinating," she reported to Morrison. "The crew is not just handling the stress of combat. They seem to be thriving on it." Morrison nodded as he watched his people work. "Doctor, humans evolved on a world where everything tried to kill us. We learned to fight back, and we learned to like it." The battle continued to rage around them. More Kelvaran ships moved to engage the Defiant, but the human vessels seemed to be everywhere at once. It would appear behind one ship, deliver a devastating attack, and then vanish before the enemy could respond effectively. Zethkar realized, with growing dread, that he was not watching a desperate last stand. He was watching predators at work. 6 months after the assassination, Coalition Fleet Commander Zorax led his patrol ships through what used to be the busy Centauri trade route. His fleet of 12 vessels moved slowly through the empty space, searching for any sign of human activity. "Commander, I'm not picking up anything," reported his sensor officer, a young Zephyrian named Kix. "No ships, no signals, no debris. It's like humans never existed here." Zorax nodded, feeling pleased with himself. The humans had run away just as Prime Minister Veltar had predicted. In 6 months, not a single human ship had been spotted in Coalition space. The cowards had hidden themselves on their primitive little worlds. "Take us to the Vega system," Zorax ordered. "Intelligence says the humans had a small research station there. We'll check it out and then report back that this sector is clean." What Zorax didn't know was that Commander Beth Taylor was watching his every move from less than a kilometer away. Her ship, the Ghost Runner, hung invisible in space, its experimental cloaking systems making it completely undetectable to Coalition sensors. Beth spoke quietly into her communication device. "Shadow Team, this is Ghost Leader. Target confirmed. 12 ships, standard Coalition patrol pattern. Begin the dance." Around the Vega system, 11 other human ships appeared like phantoms in the dark. Each one was equipped with technology that shouldn't have existed, built in secret shipyards that the Coalition had never discovered. Lieutenant Carl Davis commanded the Ghost Walker, positioned behind the Coalition fleet. His weapons officer, Sergeant Amy Johnson, smiled as she targeted the enemy ships. "Ma'am, all targets locked, quantum torpedoes armed and ready." "Fire on my mark," Beth said across the communication channel. "Remember, no survivors. We don't exist." Zorax was studying a tactical display when his ships simply began disappearing. First, the rear guard vanished without even sending a distress signal. Then the port flank ships went dark. By the time his sensor officer realized what was happening, only 4 Coalition ships remained. "Commander, we're under attack," Kix shouted. "Ships are just vanishing." "I can't see what's shooting at us." "Return fire," Zorax ordered. "All weapons, fire everything." His remaining ships filled space with energy blasts and missile trails, shooting at nothing they could see. The invisible human ships moved like ghosts through the chaos, their advanced shields deflecting the wild shots with ease. Beth Taylor watched the last Coalition ship explode on her tactical screen. The entire battle had lasted less than 3 minutes. "Shadow Team, clean sweep complete. Sanitize the area and return to base. Leave no evidence." On Earth, Dr. Lucy Chen worked 18-hour days in her laboratory, perfecting weapons that seemed to come from science fiction movies. Her latest project involved quantum manipulation technology that could bend space itself. Her research partner, Dr. Steve Martinez, looked up from his computer with excitement. Lucy, the orbital defense platform tests are incredible. We can create gravity wells that trap entire fleets. Ships get pulled in and crushed before they can even fire a shot. Lucy nodded, but her expression was troubled. Steve, are we doing the right thing? These weapons are so powerful, they could destroy entire civilizations. The Coalition wants to wipe out humanity, Lucy. Ambassador Hayes tried peace, and they murdered him for it. Now we do whatever it takes to survive. Around Earth's orbit, massive defense platforms took shape. To anyone watching from space, they looked like simple construction projects. In reality, they were the most advanced weapons ever built by human hands, capable of protecting Earth from fleets 1,000 times larger than anything the Coalition could send. Colonel Mike O'Brien crouched in the shadows on the Coalition world of Kepler-7, watching enemy soldiers patrol their supply depot. His infiltration team had been on the planet for 2 months, gathering intelligence and preparing for bigger operations. His second-in-command, Major Grace Adams, whispered into her communication device. Tiger Base, this is Insertion Team Alpha. Target confirmed. 47 military supply ships, minimal security. Ready to proceed. Miles above them, hidden in orbit, Captain Ron Blake commanded the stealth ship Nighthawk. His job was to extract the infiltration team after they completed their mission. Alpha Team, you are clear to proceed. We have eyes on local patrol ships. You have 30 minutes before they return. Mike's team moved like shadows through the enemy base, planting explosive charges and downloading military data. These weren't random attacks. Every target had been carefully chosen to weaken Coalition supply lines and gather information about their military capabilities. As the charges exploded behind them, Mike's team was already gone, extracted by the Nighthawk before Coalition reinforcements could arrive. Another successful mission in humanity's secret war. Prime Minister Veltar sat in his office on the Zephyrian homeworld, reading reports that made no sense. In 6 months, the Coalition had lost over 200 ships, patrol fleets, supply, convoys, even military bases had been attacked by an enemy nobody could see. Minister, we have another report, said his aide, a nervous official named Prex. The supply depot on Kepler-7 was destroyed. 47 ships lost, along with 3 months of military supplies. Veltar slammed his hand on his desk. How is this possible? Our intelligence says all human ships are hiding around Earth. Who is attacking us? Sir, some of our military leaders think the humans have developed new technology, ships that can't be detected, weapons that strike without warning. Impossible, Veltar said, but he didn't sound as confident as before. Humans are a primitive species. They've been in space for less than a century. They don't have technology like that. But deep down, Veltar was beginning to worry. The attacks were too coordinated, too precise. Whoever was doing this knew exactly when and where to strike for maximum damage. On the Coalition world of Altair Prime, General Thane was having similar thoughts. He stood in his command center, looking at a tactical display that showed the locations of all the recent attacks. Colonel, there's a pattern here, he said to his intelligence officer. These aren't random strikes. Someone is systematically targeting our supply lines and communication networks. Colonel Voss, a veteran of many wars, nodded grimly. Sir, I hate to say it, but this looks like the work of a species that has been planning this war for a very long time. These attacks are too sophisticated for a panicked retreat. General Thane felt a chill run down his spine. Are you suggesting the humans have been preparing for this? Sir, I'm suggesting that maybe we made a mistake when we assumed humans were weak because they wanted peace. Back on Earth, Admiral Kane stood in his command center, watching reports from across the galaxy. His Ghost fleet had carried out over 300 successful missions without losing a single ship. Coalition supply lines were in chaos. Their patrol fleets were afraid to travel alone, and their military leaders were starting to panic. Commander Beth Taylor entered the command center, still wearing her pilot's uniform from her latest mission. Admiral, Phase 2 is complete. Coalition military effectiveness has been reduced by 60%. Their supply chains are breaking down. Kane nodded with satisfaction. Good work, Commander. How are our own losses? 0 ships lost, sir. 17 minor injuries from infiltration. Missions. The Ghost fleet remains completely undetected. Kane looked at the tactical display showing the entire galaxy. Red dots marked coalition positions, while blue dots showed human forces. 6 months ago, the coalition had held overwhelming superiority. Now, they were fighting an enemy they couldn't see, couldn't track, and couldn't defeat. Admiral, the coalition leadership is requesting a meeting with Earth, reported Communications Officer Billy Wright. They want to discuss terms. Kane almost smiled. Tell them Earth is not interested in meetings. After what they did to Ambassador Hayes, the time for talking is over. President Morgan entered the command center, looking tired but determined. She had aged years in the past 6 months, carrying the weight of humanity's survival on her shoulders. Admiral, how much longer can we maintain this pace? Madam President, we can keep this up for years if necessary, but I don't think it will take that long. The coalition is starting to crack. Their military leaders are questioning orders. Their supply lines are failing, and their people are losing confidence in their government. Lisa looked at the display, seeing the scope of humanity's secret war. Peter, what happens when they finally realize the truth? When they understand that we're not hiding, we're hunting? Admiral Kane's expression was cold. Then, Madam President, the real war begins. Outside Earth's orbit, the defense platforms continued their construction, growing larger and more powerful each day. In hidden shipyards throughout human space, new Ghost fleet vessels took shape. In research laboratories, scientists worked on weapons that could reshape the laws of physics themselves. The coalition thought they were fighting refugees. Soon, they would learn they had awakened something far more dangerous than they could have imagined. Captain Jake Morrison sat in the command chair of the Earth defense ship Defiant and watched the long-range sensors with growing concern. 13 massive objects had just appeared at the edge of the solar system. They were moving toward Earth at incredible speed. Amy, what do you make of those signatures? Morrison asked his communications officer. Lieutenant Amy Collins looked up from her station. Her face was pale. Sir, I have never seen ships that big before. The largest one is reading as 40 kilometers long. That is bigger than most asteroids. Morrison felt his stomach tighten. The Defiant was 800 meters long and was the pride of Earth's defense fleet. It had taken humanity 20 years to build just this one ship. The idea that someone could build vessels 50 times larger was terrifying. Rick, are you getting any weapons readings? Morrison asked his tactical officer. Commander Rick Barnes was studying his displays with the focused attention of a man who had spent 15 years in the Navy. Sir, I am reading energy signatures that are off the charts. Each of those ships carries more firepower than our entire planetary defense grid. The bridge fell quiet. Everyone knew what this meant. If these aliens were hostile, Earth was in serious trouble. Morrison had been chosen to command the Defiant because of his experience and calm judgment. He had served as a Navy SEAL for 10 years before joining the space program. He had been in dangerous situations before, but nothing like this. "Sir, incoming transmission," Amy reported. "It is coming from the largest ship." "Put it on screen." The main display flickered and showed a creature that made everyone on the bridge take a step back. It was huge, with black armor-like skin and glowing red eyes. Sharp teeth filled its mouth and claws extended from its fingers. When it spoke, its voice was like grinding metal. "I am Commander Zethkar of the Kelvaran Empire. You will surrender your pathetic species immediately. Prepare to become slaves or be destroyed. You have 1 hour to decide." The transmission ended. The bridge crew looked at each other in shock. "Well, that was direct," Morrison said quietly. "Amy, open a channel back to them." "Channel open, sir." Morrison stood up and straightened his uniform. "Commander Zethkar, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth Defense Ship Defiant. We greet you in peace and friendship. We would like to discuss a diplomatic solution to any misunderstandings between our peoples." There was a long pause before Zethkar appeared on screen again. He looked confused, as if Morrison had said something in a foreign language. "There is no misunderstanding, human. You will surrender or die. There is nothing to discuss. With respect, Commander, we prefer to talk before fighting. Perhaps we can find a solution that benefits both our species. We have much to offer in terms of scientific knowledge and cultural exchange." Zethkar's expression changed from confusion to anger. "No species has ever refused Kelvaran demands. You are either very brave or very stupid. I suspect stupid." "We are neither, Commander. We simply believe that peaceful cooperation is better than conquest. Surely your people have learned this truth as well." The alien commander laughed, and it was not a pleasant sound. "The only truth the galaxy knows is Kelvaran's strength. In 30 minutes, I will demonstrate this truth by destroying one of your cities. Perhaps that will help you understand your situation better." The transmission ended again. Morrison turned to his crew. They were all looking at him with expressions of fear and determination mixed together. "Sir, what are your orders?" Rick asked. Morrison thought for a moment. He had hoped this day would never come, but Earth had prepared for it anyway. The Defiant was not just an exploration ship. It was humanity's answer to exactly this kind of threat. "Amy, send a priority message to Earth Defense Command. Tell them we have encountered a hostile alien fleet and are engaging under Protocol 7. "Protocol 7, sir?" Amy's voice was steady, but Morrison could hear the tension underneath. "Yes, full war alert. All defense platforms online. Evacuation of major population centers. And tell them to activate the Spartan program." Rick raised an eyebrow. The Spartan program was humanity's most classified military project. Even the crew of the Defiant only knew rumors about it. "Sir, are you sure about Protocol 7? Rick asked. "Once we go to war footing, there is no going back." "Rick, did you see the size of those ships? Did you hear what that alien said?" "They are not here to talk. They are here to make us slaves or kill us all." Morrison's voice was calm but firm. "Humanity does not kneel to anyone." "Understood, sir. All hands red alert. Battle stations." Alarms began sounding throughout the ship. The lighting changed to a red glow. Crew members ran to their positions as the Defiant transformed from an exploration vessel into a warship. Dr. Lisa Morgan, the ship's science officer, looked up from her station. "Sir, I am analyzing the alien ships. Their technology is definitely more advanced than ours, but I am seeing some interesting patterns." "What kind of patterns?" "Their ships are built for intimidation more than efficiency. They are huge and heavily armored, but they seem slow and clumsy. It is like they are designed to scare enemies into surrendering rather than actually fight them." Morrison nodded. "That makes sense. If you are strong enough, you do not need to be fast or clever. You just need to be scary." "Sir, the alien fleet is changing course," Rick reported. "They are heading directly for Earth now. At their current speed, they will be in weapons range in 6 hours. Morrison walked over to the tactical display. It showed the positions of both fleets. The Kelvaran ships looked like massive red dots moving steadily toward the small blue dot that represented Earth. The Defiant was a tiny green speck between them. "Sir, we cannot possibly fight 13 ships that size," Amy said quietly. "No, we cannot," Morrison agreed. "But we are not going to fight all 13 ships." "Sir?" Morrison smiled, and his crew was surprised to see that it was not a worried smile. It was the smile of a predator that had just spotted prey. "Amy, send another message to the Kelvaran commander. Tell him that if he wants Earth, he will have to go through us first. And tell him that humanity has never learned how to surrender." "Sir, with respect, that sounds like a suicide mission." Morrison turned to look at his crew. These were some of the best people humanity had ever produced. They were scientists, soldiers, and explorers all rolled into one. They had trained for years for this moment. "Listen carefully, all of you. Those aliens think they know everything about war. They think size and strength are all that matter. They have probably conquered dozens of species that way." Morrison's voice grew stronger. "But they have never fought humans before. They do not know what we are capable of when we are cornered." He walked back to his command chair and sat down. "They are about to learn why Earth is the only planet in the galaxy that has never been conquered by anyone.